Mikes. I call this meeting to order. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Sentence, seconded by Councillor Decker, that the council adopt the agenda for the meeting of February 2nd, 2021. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. Council meeting minutes of January 19th, 2021, moved by Councillor Longo, seconded by Councillor Wilson, that the council meeting minutes of January 19th, 2021 be hereby adopted. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mayor's report. First off, I would like to thank everyone who reached out this past week to family and friends and offered condolences regarding the passing of my brother, Michael Ugolini. It was truly appreciated, especially during these unprecedented times when having a proper visitation and funeral service was not possible. On Wednesday, January 20th, the heads of council met virtually with Minister Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and Minister Lisa McLeod, Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture, to discuss the rollout of the messaging campaign initiated by the province, Stay Home, Stay Safe, Save Lives. The regional budget was finalized on January 21st and passed on January 28th with a 1.8% increase on the regional portion of the levy. Regional Councillor Whalen will speak to this in his presentation. On Friday, January 22nd, I attended a virtual event with our CAO, Manoj Dalwaria, and Economic Development Manager, Marco Marino, where Brock University and Hopa Ports signed a memorandum of understanding. This agreement will see Brock and Hopa Ports work together to provide experiential learning opportunities, including co-op placements, and to pursue research collaborations that support marine and industry needs. On Monday, January 25th, I chaired our town and gown meeting. Councillors Wilson and Kenny were also in attendance. We reviewed first semester issues and looked at second semester concerns and set up preparations for St. Patrick's Day. I have asked for a digital copy of student application, now if I'll get that word properly, guide for North America, delivering harmonious town and gown associations, to be distributed to the committee and council. Please take time to read this excellent guide written by Professor Darren Smith from Loughborough University, United Kingdom, and Professor Michael Fox, Mount Allison University, Canada. On Friday, January 29th, Hopa Ports announced a new tenant to the Thorold Multimodal Hub. Tora Incorporated, a St. Catharines-based company offering warehousing, sorting, assembly, and other services for domestic and international manufacturers, will occupy 60,000 square feet of warehouse space within the Thorold Multimodal Hub. A great announcement with more to come as the facility's potential is realized. On Monday, February 1st, the funding announcement for the rehabilitation of the Battle of Beaver Dams Park took place and was live streamed. Federal Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Catherine McKenna, MP Vance Badaway, MPP Sam Oysterhoff, representing Provincial Minister of Infrastructure, Laurie Scott, CAO Manoj Dalwaria, Economic Development Manager, and event MC Marco Marino and myself were in attendance for the Zoom virtual announcement. This project qualified under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Community, Culture, and Recreation Infrastructure funding stream. The federal contribution to this important community project will be $267,366. and the provincial contribution will be $222,783. We are pleased and thankful to receive this funding. The importance of working together with our federal and provincial partners is essential and allows important community projects such as this become a reality. I'd like to thank staff for all their work on putting together this successful application. February marks Black History Month, a time we celebrate Black culture and recognize the many accomplishments and contributions made in Niagara and across Canada by those in the Black community. Events that have occurred over the past year have shown that anti-Black racism is still an issue that deserves everyone's attention. In September of 2020, all 12 municipal mayors and the regional chairs signed on to the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, reflecting our shared commitment to work towards policies that eradicate racism and discrimination and promote human rights and diversity. As case numbers start to come down to the provincial stay-at-home order, please continue to follow the public health safety measures. Once again, thank you for your perseverance. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a long struggle, and the next few months will be tough, but we must stay the course. Once the much anticipated spring weather arrives and mass vaccination rollout begins, we will be in a better place. Right now, follow the stay-at-home provincial order and public health safety measures. Continue to support one another, our frontline workers, and more than ever, our local businesses who are the backbone of our community. Stay home, stay safe, save lives. I will be bringing a notice of motion forward this evening to lower the flag at City Hall for 3 days, beginning Friday, March 12th. This will be to honor those who have died of COVID-19 over the past year since we took first measures citywide to fight the spread of the virus. This also coincides with what the City of St. Catharines will be doing, and we are also working with the Niagara region to have a region-wide acknowledgement of this terrible loss of life and the impact it has had on their families and friends. Over 300 people have passed away from COVID-19 in Niagara since last March. Our heartfelt condolences go out to all families who have lost someone. It is especially difficult during the pandemic when normal hospital visits, funeral visitation, and services are not possible. Earlier today, Chief Building Official Jason Simpson and I met with representatives from Ontario Power Generation to discuss their safety concerns with skating, hockey games, and outdoor winter activities taking place on the ice in the Lake Gibson and Marlet Ponds Beaver Dams area. The numbers associated with these activities are up significantly due to COVID-19, arena closures, and everything related to that. They state that ice forming near OPG dams and stations is often much thinner than ice elsewhere due to changing flows and water conditions. This means the ice is not safe for winter activities. The area near OPG dams and hydroelectric stations have warning signs, buoys, fences, booms, and barriers to warn people of the potential dangers. They will be upping their media campaign, and we sent that ad out to all of council and staff before the meeting, which we will share on our social media and website. They will also be increasing the security patrol in these areas. And that's the end of my mayor's report. No public meetings, and we move on now to regional councillor update, and I'd like to welcome regional councillor Tim Whalen, and he's going to talk about the budget from the region and also the Thorold Runway of Recognition. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mayor Ugolini. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can't see you though.
Just trying to get set up here.
There you go.
There you go. Anyhow, thank you, Mayor Ugolini and fellow councilors and staff. It's great to be with you all tonight. I guess see you all tonight rather than being with you, but it'd be nice to get back to those normal times again. So anyhow, as Mayor Ugolini said prior, I'd like to update everyone on the finalized 2021 budget that we set at the region. At the regional budget meeting on January 21st, Regional Council approved the budget for the 2021 that ensures the municipality can continue to provide a high level of service while minimizing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on residents. As part of the 2021 budget deliberations, the region undertook a comprehensive public engagement process. The budget engagement exercise reaffirmed the residents' desire to see the region continue to support population economic growth initiatives and ensure that Niagara's most vulnerable citizens are cared for. A few highlights in the budget were the COVID-19 costs for 2021, estimated in the 17.8 million range, are fully funded by the Safe Restart and other provincial funding, to include a pandemic response team that will now allow the Niagara Public Health to mitigate future risks to the health of public health. The West Lincoln redevelopment contribution. This year, we're setting aside the $1.5 million annual contribution to the reserve, to a total of $12.6 million of commitment. This will ensure that the expansion of the health service in West Niagara is fully contained. Also, EMS transformation of $1.3 million will continue to ensure a high quality patient care while avoiding incremental cost to ambulances. An additional $2 million, or 0.5% of the 2020 tax increase, is dedicated to enhancing funding for critical infrastructure, such as roads reconstruction and bridge replacement. This will also include the Highway 20 bridge, covering the aqueduct west of the Ellenberg Bridge, which will have a major impact on Thorold, and make sure it's safe to go over that aqueduct bridge. And finally, the use of the $4.3 million we had to use in reserves to operate the budget to get it down within a decent amount. This is our rainy day budget, and it looks like right now with the pandemic, this is a rainy day. The operating budget for 2021 contains a tax levy of $405.3 million, which funds the daily business of the Niagara region and its boards and agencies. To help drive Council's vision for the prosperous and resilient region, the operating budget also supports just over $500 million in approved capital budget. The region has allocated funding towards the construction of the South Niagara Falls wastewater treatment facility, which again has a major impact to the south part of Thorold. It'll open up the area to population growth and new economic opportunities. As Mayor Ugolini said earlier, the tax increase for this year is 1.8% for the taxpayer. This equates to the average of $29 for the year, or the average of $1,640 for 2021 to the average taxpayer in the region of Niagara. So this is a brief override of what I have. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions. I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
Yeah, we'll do questions on that before we move on to the Thorold runway announcement, Councillor Whalen.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Questions for Councillor Whalen? Go ahead, Councillor Hanley, and then Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. You mentioned just in regards to the expansion of the water and the sewer services that would be affecting the heading towards the Rolling Meadows area. Projected time frame for that to end?
They're supposed to be done by 2025.
2025?
Yes.
And that will be completed up to Highway 58 or right to the bridge?
There's a new pumping station proposed at Black Horse, and it'll connect with the Peel Street station. Then it'll run east down towards the where the new hospital is planned on.
Yeah, if I can elaborate on that, because I see the Public Works. So the plan is to take the Peel Street load, shift that by force main up to Black Horse Corners, and then from Black Horse Corners to the new station, it'll be by gravity, Councillor Hanley.
Yeah, it's what time it'll flow downhill as opposed to uphill.
And that's going to be in there connected with the future expansions that we're looking at in Allenberg that's been proposed on Barron Road also. That whole catchment area is also included in that?
I don't believe so, but it's just a stone's throw from that. So something I'm sure we can work on.
No, that whole area, because that area now goes down to Peel Street. So all
Street.
that
Yeah,
will be diverted the other way. I'm not 100%, but I think Port Robinson East as well.
Yes.
okay, because I'm just wondering, because with the urban expansion that's going to be happening in the Welling area and that stuff in regards to the Hanson Road area too, even though that's on the opposite side of the canal, it's the impact on the whole infrastructure as it would be. One question, if I could, Councillor Whalen, in regards to that servicing, what are the future plans of servicing Highway 20 corridor from Rice Road to the 406 Highway 20 corridor?
Well, much of that area right now is greenbelt, but it is a good question. And it'll leave up a lot of openness that right now is drained by the Peel Street going underneath the canal towards the east side of the canal. So I'm sure it'll take a lot of the pressure off of that side of the canal, whatever is not dedicated to Greenbelt.
Well, okay, because that siphon that goes under across from where the former Ontario paper mill was, I think it's only operating at about 40% capacity right now anyways.
But we won't need that at all. Everything will flow south as opposed to north.
That'd be good.
That's
And then it could alleviate the flooding in the south. One other question, in regards to the 2021 budget. Was there any contingency monies put in there for the overruns that will be occurring and which have already occurred in regards to the Canada Games? Seeing that from numbers that were presented to council the last time you were present, roughly sits at 10 million now. What's in the budget to cover the overruns for the Canada Games, if any? Are we expecting any?
Are you talking about operation budgets, or which budget? Is that the one you?
The construction budget itself, because the region, I believe, assumed that it went over the estimated amount that was previously presented to council, and everybody at the region would assume 100% of that debt.
Yeah, any overruns on the Canada Games facility and Thorold will be taken over by the region, of course, not any other municipality.
And on that point, is there any monies in a contingency fund to cover those overruns? Because presently, I don't believe our question's been answered that was formally presented.
That's
regards to Councillor Longo's concerns that it may already be 10 million over budget. That's my concern.
As far as Councillor Longo's asking me last council, the overrun is an operating budget, which is, they're looking at a possibility of a $2.5 million overrun with the extension of the Canada Games back another year. Now, being it was an ask of the upper levels of government, we're quite confident that they'll come through and cover any expenses so we won't have to take it locally. So that's the 2.5 million that we spoke of at the last time. As far as your motion that you put forward at last meeting in December, within the next couple of weeks, the regional staff will come back with a full complement of just where we stand and just what's heading forward to us.
Okay, I appreciate that. It was actually 10 million that was mentioned, but I appreciate your answer. Thank you very much, Councillor Whalen.
The other issue, Councillor Hanley, I just want to comment that please follow the official plan process at the region and please comment on that. And because that's one area that you can comment on will be the Highway 20 corridor.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Neil, did you have a question?
About the Highway 20 issue?
Okay. I'll now let Councillor Whalen move on to the Thorold Runway of Recognition, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll put my other hat on as chair of the Thorold Sports Runway of Recognition. I guess everyone's aware that back in the late summer, early fall last year, that we had planned on moving the date of our gala to March. And as it stands now, it looks like it'll be a very slim chance that we'll be able to get together for that time. So what we're hopeful for is maybe late summer, early fall next year that we'll be able to get things together. All dependable on the pandemic, which hopefully will be gone by then. So we'll keep everybody in the loop once we have a more exact date, but everybody hold on to their tickets because they will be acceptable at that time. On the plus side, during these unusual pandemic times, there is a little glimmer of light that I'd like to shed upon you. The Thorold Sports Run Recognition, in conjunction with the White family, would like to formally announce the kickoff of the White Family Foundation Scholarship. I'd like to thank the foundation, especially the founding donor. And speaking of the donor, I'd like to say a few words on his behalf of forming this foundation. A lot of people in Thorold remember the name Jerry White, who was a founding member of the White Family Scholarship Foundation. He played the TA, started playing at 10 years old, played in the midget NHL program in 1950. He finished juvenile hockey at 18 years old in 1957. From there, he became president of the TA at 21 years of age in 1960 and served as the title until 1963. Jerry was responsible for the formation of the first Thorold Junior B hockey club in Thorold. And with Jerry behind the bench, he coached the Thorold JCs in the fall of 1963, his inaugural season. He was involved in the OMHA and the OHA and the CHA, where he sat on many committees during his tenure as president. During that tenure, a fellow by the name of Frank Doherty, who the Thorold Arena is named after, was president of the OMHA at the time. And he asked Jerry what he was going to do, whether he was going to further his education or look for work. He gave Jerry his first open door projects as a full-time office boy with the Beaverwood Fire Company in 1957, where Jerry started his business career. Jerry's work career included the Beaver Board from 57 to 72, Georgia Pacific from 72 to 75, where he was transferred as the CFO of the Philippine operations. Georgia Pacific, he was Indonesian operations CEO from 75 to 85, and presently sits on the Saga group of companies where he's present CEO of the Indonesian, Singapore, United Kingdom, and USA operations. Some of the highlights of his career was in 1981, he was presented with the Georgia Pacific Corporation Man of the Year Award. He went with a number of times with the president of Indonesia on creating a sustainable industry. The highlight of his career that he stood out most of all is Jerry was the meeting of the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, at Buckingham Palace in 2014 and received an award for developing the new industry. Jerry was inducted into our Sports Wall of Fame in 2009 as a builder and what he contributed to Thorold Sports. His background is the reason why he's starting the foundation to show appreciation to the city of Thorold and Thorold athletes that allows the infrastructure to allow these people to develop and move on in the world. We do hope the scholarship program will allow students 2 per year for a total of 50 students over the next 25 years to obtain their goals in life and remember the city they grew up in and going forward with this thought. If you know of any athletes that are deserving, the applications are available online. If you Google the White Family Foundation, maybe make sure you add Thorold to it because there's quite a few White Family Foundations around the world, but this will bring you right to our site. The nominees can reply to the site or drop by application at City Hall or to myself at the Thorold Credit Union on Front Street. This fantastic start for 2 young people in Thorold to entering their post-secondary education. We look forward to the first 2 recipients this summer. The deadline is the end of May, and we look forward to handing it out this year to 1 male and female recipient. So unless there are any questions, that finishes my report.
I remember Mr. White, Pope White. I remember him well when I was young playing hockey.
Yeah, I know anybody remembers. I guess everybody pretty well remembers back in the 50s, 60s, everybody has a nickname. And Pope White is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Apparently how it was derived, Holy Rosary hockey team, he was a member of back in the 60s. And he was the only non-Catholic. So he came up with the nickname Pope, and it stays with him to today. So some great history.
Is there any questions relating to that? Okay, thanks so much, Councillor Whalen. That was a very good presentation, and we look forward to the first recipients of this year's scholarships.
Yes, we can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to move on to presentations, and I have Bill Vanderklip from the Thorold Housing Group. And Bill, are you there?
I guess I got to unmute myself. I got to put my video on. Is that better?
Yes, Bill, welcome. And go ahead. You're up.
Okay. Well, good evening, councilors. It's my privilege to address you. I'm going to share my screen. I see that I've got a link here to do that. Give me a second and I will try to get this thing going. Is this clear to everybody?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so I'm making the presentation on behalf of the Thorold Housing Group, which, as the next line indicates, is an ad hoc committee reporting to One Thorold, which I will explain a little bit further. And tonight's presentation, of course, is to each of you as councilors in the city of Thorold. And the outline of my presentation, just to give you a little idea of where I'm taking you this evening, is to give you a bit of background of our team and what we've been working on, and reviewing some of the housing needs in this area, a sharing of our mission and vision, some of the activities that we've taken part in to date, our current focus, and outlining some of the support areas we may need from the city of Thorold. And then I would be open to any questions. And I want to welcome the rest of our team. I've provided them with a link to the meeting of tonight as well. So I'm assuming, even though I don't see them, that they are chiming in the background as well. So in terms of the Thorold Housing Group, the grouping of church leaders that used to be known as the Thorold Ministerial Group hosted or put together an event a few years back that we called the Thorold Community Leaders prayer breakfast, and the ministerial now goes by the name of One Church Thorold. And out of the community leaders prayer breakfast, another grouping or group of people was formed of community leaders, and that this goes by the simple name of One Thorold, just to indicate unity and working together as a community of people. And the One Thorold group is comprised of individuals and leaders representing community agencies, churches, and businesses. And I put a brief list there of some of the agencies and churches that are part of that, like Community Care, St. John's Anglican, Living Water Community Church. We usually have representation from the Niagara Board of Trade and Commerce. A counselor or two, our mayor has been at our meetings as well, so we're very, very pleased about that. The village church and some local business people. Our meetings are by and large held on a monthly basis, although in the summer that may stretch out a little bit, which I think is true for most groups. And underneath the One Thorold group, a housing group was formed on the basis of some discussions we had in the first year that One Thorold was meeting. And the Thorold Housing Group at present is comprised of, the order is basically, well, close to being alphabetical for the last names, with Gary Ford, Fred Neal, Terrence Shilstra, Laurie Beach, who comes from Bethlehem Housing Group in St. Catharines, and then myself, who's a business owner. And so the first meetings of One Thorold, we invited people from the community and agencies. We had a presentation from the YWCA group. We had a presentation from some of the people involved at the Thorold Secondary School, from Community Care. And one of the recurring themes that we heard was that there is a problem with housing that we need to look at in our community. And so now the Thorold Housing Group then just kind of reports back and forth with this group called One Thorold. And so based on that recurring theme, we did a little bit of research into the housing needs. And in the region of Niagara, they're talking about a term called core housing need. And in the area at the bottom of the screen there, where we have the green highlighted here, it says the core housing need is housing that falls below at least one of the standards for adequacy, affordability, or suitability. And it would have, and this particular house would have to spend 30% or more of its total before tax income in rent. And so within the region of Niagara, we're seeing kind of a 13% of households that would meet that definition of being a needy household. And when we go on to the next slide, we kind of a breakdown by the communities. And obviously some communities, there's a greater need. The Thorold one here is showing you that we are basically right at the regional average. The interesting note at the bottom here is that while Niagara as a whole has a bit of a lower rate of core housing than Toronto, Hamilton, London, the rate of increase that we are seeing in the last number of years is faster than most of the communities around us. So that's the core housing area. In terms of data analysis for, again, I'll just point out that this is for the Niagara region. This is a few years old. I can't remember exactly which year this came out, but this was done at the regional level. And it's showing that the biggest needs are for single households or lone parent households. When we get to couples and couples with children, there are some needs within the region, but the biggest needs are for these two areas over here. If I can just find my mouse back. And now if you break it down by communities, I don't know how clear this is. This one column didn't highlight very well, but Thorold is this column over here, We're looking for about 970 households based on that data from a few years back, which, as I said, has been increasing year by year. So I would assume that the total needs in Thorold are actually higher. The biggest portion here is the 869, which is non-census singles, households in core need. And then if we go down to the next page of this thing, at the end, it's lone parents, which means, of course, a parent with children, and we are seeing a need there of housing. So we did the research. We got some background information that came through the region. And so in terms of our group, the Thorold Housing Group, we've come to two main areas of focus. One is to provide housing to homeless and single or lone parent families under the Housing First model, which I will explain a little bit in a minute, with the addition of supports on site and with the attention then of developing a community or family environment for people living in this housing area. And then the second area is to work with local partners and government on the, obviously on the first one, but also in terms of the issue of unaffordable homes now, given the fact there's competition from student housing and a fairly major influx in the last number of years of buyers from higher value areas who are selling homes and then purchasing homes at incredible prices in our area. So there's the two areas of vision or focus that we have. You know, in terms of the housing group, these are some of the, I'm saying activities, but most of them were involved with people showing up at our meetings. And the last number of meetings, of course, were under the same conditions that you're meeting tonight with the Zoom or online video conference type of meeting. But in the early days, when we first started, we went to a session that the Region Niagara put on with a fellow named Ian DeYoung, and he explained and highlighted this Housing First model. We invited Jeff Sinclair from the Region Niagara, who's the Homelessness Action Plan Advisor, and some of the data that I presented this evening, he shared with us, and I'm sharing it with you. Crystal Schneider spoke to us at one of the meetings. She's with the YWCA Niagara region. I believe she's the acting lead person for them right now. We talked to the economic development person from the city of Thorold, Marco Marino, whom you are all familiar with. And then we had actually two conversations with Laura Beach from Bethlehem Housing and Support Services, and she currently is on our member of our group because of her excellent advice and her past experience. They recently opened a new unit in St. Catharines on Church Street that really aligns itself very well with the vision that I talked about with the Housing First model, with supports on site, and with the development of community and friendships and mutual accountability for the residents of the housing. So we're very pleased that Lori has agreed to join us and provide the counsel and advice that she is. In one of the more recent meetings, we met with Leslie Bellingham, who's with Raising the Roof, and her group is an interesting perspective. They would like to see the refurbishment or rebuilding or retooling of some existing housing in the area. And so they specifically would come through with the support for a project like that, where a building that's run down or wants to be repurposed and could be used for this, they have funds to support that kind of project. So that is definitely a consideration as we go forward. And then we have some very preliminary kind of brainstorming sessions with a couple of property developers to see if there would be any buy-in to the concept of this type of working with this type of project. So the number one focus that we have as a group right now is to find land that would be shovel ready at some point in the not too distant future. When we talked to Marco Marino and Councillor Neal, I believe has met with Marco and a few others in the city and highlighted a few properties. And there is a city property at the corner of Wellington and St. David's that has been undeveloped. I believe there are a few environmental issues with that property, but it's a potential site for this and not too distant from the downtown part of Thorold, but accessible to some of the services and stores that we would need downtown. Some of the developers indicated they might consider one of their sites or another site for this. And, I just talked about that issue of raising the roof or retooling or repurposing an existing building and maybe getting funding for that. So there's a possibility of co-development. And so we've explored some options. We are at a very, very preliminary stage, and the purpose of bringing this to council tonight is just to make you aware of where we are at and what we're trying to do in the community. And so,
Bill, I'm going to give you a minute to wrap up here.
okay, I'll try to do this quickly. So anyways, I can just list the things that we are looking in terms of the city here. Is there at the city planning level, is there a focus or an incentive to provide this type of housing? And if we were to go forward, would the city give us some consideration for development charges, property taxes, or other waivers, help with the land or other furthers? And we would need support when we would be seeking grants, or we would need support at the regional level too for this. And of course, we definitely are coming to the city of Thorold because we believe it's a caring community. That's been part of my experience living in this community and being part of the business community. So that actually was my last slide. And now if there's any questions or feedback, I'd be open to that.
Okay, can I get the full screen back so I can see who's...
I will stop sharing here. How's that?
There we go. Okay, any questions for Bill?
Yes.
Councilor.
Okay, I got 3 hands. I'll let you chair the hands, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Hanley, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bill C, now your initiative actually is to create more housing on the property in Wellington Street. Mr. Mayor, like through you, it's more or less like a point, not a question, but could we do something with that property in Wellington Street to get government grant to help us in regards to the contamination so that we may be able to make a project or initiative like Bill's feasible?
I think what we need to do there, Councilor Hanley, and we could talk about it at budget, is we need to do level 2, would it be?
I believe that's level 2.
Do a level 2 environmental assessment. Am I right?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we have done a study some years back. We have to update that study to make sure that it is current. We need to know what is the level of contamination there, and then what is required for the remediation of the site.
So that's an issue that we can discuss at budget, because to do the environmental impact study, we can get some costs and have a discussion at budget on that, Councilor Hanley.
Okay, thank you. Then with council's consent, then can we put that down as an issue that we could discuss tomorrow and at the previous meetings afterwards, please? And thank you.
Yes, we will. Councilor Neal, did you
Yeah,
have?
thank
your hand up?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just to wrap it up. I've been enjoying being on this committee for the last couple of years, and we're working on this for at least 2 years. And we're going to be working on it continuously, and we will be bringing a presentation back once we have all our ducks in a row, I'll call it. And one of the main reasons I'm on this particular committee, as a lot of you know, a good friend of mine, and I believe of a number of people around the table there, died last year because he didn't have a place to go. And this is a place that he could have gone and got the supports, because it's not just housing itself, it's the support surrounding the housing that is very important. So I believe when this does come back, and when we ask for maybe a development charge exemption or property tax exemption or other initiatives that we might want to look at, that council will be appreciative and look forward to helping for this particular project.
Thank you.
If I could make one more point, Mr. Mayor, just
Go ahead, Bill. And then I got Councilor DeRose.
okay. I just want, it's one of the things that comes up regularly at meetings. If this project is to go anywhere and to make that housing available to people on lower incomes or no income at all, we somehow have to get housing up at a reduced cost. And that's where we need everybody to line up.
Okay, and Councillor DeRose, did you have your hand up for that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through you, Bill, thanks for the great presentation. And I just had to thank you, the amazing things I've seen the last few years you and your wife doing for our community. I just wanted to thank you personally for myself. We really appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the great work. Thank you. You have my support on anything you do. Thank you.
I got Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Bill, for your presentation. And Fred, thank you for speaking as well. That is definitely a project that we should all be supporting. I just have a question about land. I know that St. Charles will be closing over the next year or two, or maybe 3. What is the intent with that land? Is that a possibility that we could look at that land for some housing in that area? Can anyone answer that for me?
Tell you that as of right now, the land is not up for sale. And when it does come for sale, and I think maybe Maria, you can help on this, it comes in for market value, am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, traditionally what happens is the municipality would have the first right of refusal. But I believe the school board's position is that they do dispose of these properties at market value.
Okay,
Yep.
Councillor Sentence. Are you done, Councillor Decker? Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Bill, thank you for another great presentation. I appreciate it. Behind anything that you guys can come up with, if we can help. I just had a couple questions. One is about land. Do you have like I know I've talked to Marco about this before. Do you have a comprehensive or more land than what you're just talking about ideas? Is there any ideas for any other places is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, I think the undertaking that we are involved in is quite ambitious. So, I mean, if there's one piece of land and you could put up 100 units or 150 units, you know, the numbers indicate that we would need more than that. So if we can stream multiple projects at the same time, or one feathers in a little bit later on, those are definite options. And those are not things that we've discussed as a group yet, but these are considerations. I'm sure that we would, like this whole raising the roof thing that just came upon us. But if there's another building someplace that could be rehabbed or refurbished or retooled or repurposed, then, you know, that we could maybe get multiple projects on the go. But again, that's all preliminary, Ken.
Okay, thank you. And there's been different groups that have contacted counselors and come to council, like Darren Hardy and stuff, like people like that who are actually building buildings like this, and they can build them cheaper from, you know, from what I've heard. Have you reached out to any of those groups when you're talking about, you know, developers and stuff like that?
That name hasn't come across our table yet, but we definitely have started the process of reaching out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being at the end, there's not much left for me to add because all the other councilors said great things. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you for sharing that with us. And it's really exciting to learn about groups that are doing such wonderful things in our community. And I know that real estate is out of control. I happened just to look at it this weekend and I couldn't believe what was going on. So I think we'll see more and more of a surge towards affordable housing for people, right? Because even if you're buying and you're renting it out, you still have a mortgage. So the rent is just going to go through the roof. So thank you so much.
I seen Councillor Kenny. Did you have your hand up? Go ahead. You got to unmute.
Yeah, first of all, Bill, thank you very much. Like everybody else said, great work. That property you're talking about is a brownfield, so it would come under most of the get most of the relief from us and from the governments if it were to work anyway. I do know there's a lot of work to be done on that brownfield though. Hopefully it's other people have tried. Hopefully we can make it happen. But as you heard from all the councillors, you have our support, and anything that we can do to help you, go for it.
Well, I really appreciate your time, your listening here, and your support. It's overwhelming. Thank you very much.
So Bill, again, I want to thank you on behalf of council Everything was well received, and we appreciate you coming forward, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Good night.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to motions for council support, moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Kenny, and I'll turn it over to Councillor Neal. You're up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I'll just read the motion that a proposal from Rolling Meadows Development Company, Glen Gordon, to establish a walking cycling trail on DeQ Road from Merrittville Highway to just past Faywell Road to be referred to budget for discussion, be approved and supported.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, you know, I would assume that in a package, I would get more information on this because it's a great endeavor or great idea. Can I just ask staff, is this a priority or on our radar? Because there's not many details there, and I would like to get some more details. Can anybody on staff answer if it's a priority or on our radar to be done in the near future? Or if anybody could share some details with me, I'd appreciate it.
It's Jeff, are you there?
Yeah.
You want to speak on that, or do you want to wait till budget? What is your?
Yeah, no, well, I think it does, it's definitely worthy of discussion at the budget time, Mr. Mayor. So the trail initiative was something that has been on our books for some time. Council had asked for a report going back to, I believe it was 2019. And at the time, the request was referred to both our transportation master plan and also to our Parks, Trails, and Recreation Master Plan. They are referenced in both of those documents, and we would like to advance them. At the time, though, we are looking at what the costs are to proceed with that project. We appreciate Mr. Gordon's offer to help fast track it. But at the moment, there are other priorities that we believe should be considered first.
Okay, so basically, Councillor DeRose, and then that discussion would be held at budget if this motion's approved, okay? Yep, go ahead.
Just, is there any details that we could have before making a decision like that? Or like, is this common to get into a partnership with a private company, private investor? I don't know. It's a great endeavor, but to me, there's just like a big question mark of questions that I don't have the answers to. If anybody can supply them, that would be great. First of all, is it a common thing, to Mr. Holman, thank you. Is it a common thing to get into these partnerships?
I'll turn Director of Finance, do you want to speak on that, Maria?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have sometimes these unsolicited type of, developers or people come forward for this type of thing. I think that council does need to be aware that, we do need to have an open and transparent procurement. And, we've not really seen the full details here on this. So I would caution council on just awarding to a single person without going through an open and transparent process.
Okay. Councillor DeRose.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just bring the council's attention that in our January 19th council meeting agenda in the Parks Trails, if I could read just what was said in regards to this project, Tony Vandermaas advised the group talk primarily about two things. First, the DQ trail to go from Richmond Street to Morningstar Mill, for which St. Catharines would have to do on their side of the road. He stated the region had asked the engineering company, in particular Glen Gordon, to tweak a few things. So that speaks that it's obviously discussions must be already ongoing. He stated Mr. Gordon wants to get this started, and his offer to the city was he would cover the cost of half, and the cost overruns past 800,000, which was quoted at the time which he was willing to allow the city to take their time in paying. Tony Vandermaas stated the deal may have to be tweaked now, as he is not sure if this offer is still in place. He added that the most of the cost is for labor and machinery. Staff member Curtis Dre stated Mr. Gordon was offering $500,000 in kind, so his crew could do that amount of work, and the additional cost for design would have to go to council for approval. So that's what was in minutes from a previous meeting. So it seems to me that there's probably already discussions going on. The region's obviously been involved. And I can, you know, and for Maria Morrow, in regards to procurement policy, we have to follow the procurement policy. I don't believe we could do it with a single or hiring someone privately to do a set amount of work at a set amount of dollars without doing the procurement process. So that's just some information I want the council to be aware of. That was discussed at the Parks and Recreation and Trails meeting in minutes that were given to us on January 19th.
Yes, and that's correct, Councillor Hanley, but and in those minutes, that was to do the whole trail. This particular motion is just biting off a part of it. Am I correct, Councillor Neal? It's just one phase of the trail. It's not the whole trail.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I'm not sure everybody has all the information yet, but I sent it over the other day with a bunch of information regarding the costs and the type of contract that would be put forward. And from my perspective, if we're going to start discussing this at this meeting, is that similar to what Councillor Hanley did in Thorold South with his project, is that it is a project that he took on with other organizations and businesses in order to complete that particular project. And from my perspective, it is a similar type of project.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. And but let's get, this is just to refer this to budget. This motion isn't to discuss the project tonight. It's to refer it to budget to have that discussion there. And that's the motion. Anyone else want to speak to what that motion is? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, and part of it too also is, and it's on the Parks and Rec agenda for Wednesday. I brought it up to Dan to start maybe a project within the city with these park benches and either for at the cemetery, Millsworth Park, Battle of Beaver Dams Park, a program where people would pay. I think the cost is somewhere around $2,000 for a cement base and a bench to get it out there in the public that it's available for the city and for the good of the city. If people would like to donate it, sometimes in memory of somebody or whatever. But that's part on the Parks and Trails agenda on Wednesday.
Okay. So we have this motion. Does anyone else want to speak to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Motion to receive and file minutes or adopt recommendation of council committees and boards. Minutes to review for information purposes, moved by Councillor DeRose and seconded by Councillor Hanley. That council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council local boards as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Statement by councillors. I have Councillor Hanley on tax assessment, new construction. Councillor Hanley.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. No fault to the city, I might add, what I'm going to bring up here, but I've been brought to my attention that we have some residents who actually constructed properties and were given occupancy in 2018 and have yet to this day have received an assessment from impact as to what their total taxes would be, knowing full well that they, once that assessment come in, they would be owing the back taxes to the city. But I can give you the area just to give you an example, and I don't know if this is occurring, but what we could do as a city, but on Turner Road, just east of Kottmeyer Road, I believe it was in 2017, the city actually sold a piece of land there, I believe, through tax sales. Anyways, there's been 3 houses constructed there. One was finished in April of 2018, one in November 2019, and the third one just after the second one was finished. The third house that was completed has actually received their tax assessment and are paying their taxes, whereas the first home was occupied in April of 2018 have yet to receive from Impact a tax assessment as the amount that they should be paying for their taxes. And a resident directly across the street also who has occupied that home since roughly November 2019 is yet to receive any notice from Impact as the amount of taxes that they are going to be paying. And like I say, I know it's a deal to do with Impact. I see Maria's there. Maybe through Maria, and to me, this is like way before COVID-19, 2018 occupancy, 2019 occupancy. Why is it these individuals have not received the tax assessment and what we can do? And is this an occurrence that's happening citywide?
Go ahead to our director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, if Councillor Hanley, perhaps you can reach out to me via email. I will follow up with MPAC just to, highlight these properties to them. I know that they have been much better in recent years, but certainly, hearing this, there are still some issues out there. In terms of the legislation, it's current year +2. So if someone had, and it's for occupancy. So even though the home is built, unless someone is actually occupying it, as opposed to just being granted an occupancy permit, that's when the clock starts ticking for MPAC. So Councillor Hanley, appreciate if you could just let me know the exact addresses, and I will reach out to MPAC.
Okay.
They do have a target right now. One of their own internal goals is that they want to have 85% of residential properties assessed within 1 year. I know that in terms of the properties that they did assess last year, this is on a supplemental or omit basis. They hit a 65% target. So they are still not quite there, but certainly it sounds like there are still properties that are falling through the cracks. So if you let me know, I'll get on them.
Oh, okay, I appreciate that. These are the occupancies, and I do appreciate that. And I will have contact with you, Maria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, no delegations. Consent reports. We have one consent report moved by Councillor Decker, seconded by Councillor Sentence, that council approved the following consent report, CC 2021-03. Is there anyone who wants to speak to that report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Just one, Mr. Mayor. In regards to Port Colborne medical cannabis grow operations, the PDF in regards to the amount of facilities in which can sell marijuana. I believe it's the amendment to the cannabis retail. That's what I'd like to support. And if I could, maybe if Jason's listens, through you to Jason Simpson, are we looking at trying to put a bylaw or an amendment in order or a resolution where we can limit the amount of cannabis stores that will be able to open in the city of Thorold, seeing that I believe we already have 2 presently, as we did years ago with adult entertainment parlors? Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Jason Simpson.
Jason, are you on?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, no, that's not something that the city is currently looking at. I don't believe, from my recollection, that has been something that's been raised by council to date, something being that they want us to look into. But I guess if that's something, I would have to look into it further to see what the regulations are behind doing that as well.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, and before I bring any type of resolution or motion forward, maybe if I could ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to Jason, could you do a little research on that behalf for us and let us know what direction council can take, if any?
Did you want a staff report?
Yes, I'd be happy to do
A
that.
staff report on that, Mr. Mayor, please?
Can I get a seconder for a staff report on that? Councillor Neal. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay.
That's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
No, he wants the, well, did we already do that? The Niagara Police Report? Yes, there's something else I want to get the clerk to speak on regarding that, Counselor Hanley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to get some clarification, Counselor Hanley. So attached to the Port Colborne letter for medical cannabis grow operations, there's an attachment from the Niagara Police Services Board. And in that attachment, there's a motion that they were looking for support. Would you like that to come forward at our next council meeting?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Seeing
Mr.
none,
Mayor.
all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Discussion reports. PWCS 2021-06. I have a mover, Counselor Hanley, and a seconder, Counselor Wilson, that council approved the removal of ice in the Doherty Arena as outlined in this report, and I'll turn this over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman, and I read it for you, but I don't know if you want to add anything.
Just to add that we have our Manager of Community Services, Curtis Dre, available for any questions as well.
Okay, so you have that on the floor. Does anyone have any questions of staff? Go ahead, Counselor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Curtis or to Jeff. Just have you had consultation with the user groups? I know I talked to a couple. It's hard to argue this. I mean, the way things are going, I even forgot there was a gray zone. So if we're here, we go to gray. You can't do anything in red. Some groups won't do it. One group said they would, but you're talking probably into the spring before you can even think about putting people back in there again. So I was just wondering if you had talked to the user groups at all.
I don't know who wants to talk, Jeff or.
Yeah, I'll let Curtis speak to this, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we did reach out to all of the user groups, and there is interest in going back to play. The challenge is at this point, we just don't know when that is. And you're correct, Councillor Sentence, when you say that we go back to essentially the gray zone, then the red zone, which is 10 people per use, and then we go back to the orange zone. So that could be a month away, it could be 2 months away. We just don't know at this point what that's going to be. So best case scenario, we could go back into the red zone on February 10th for 28 days, and then potentially into the orange after that. So we're already into the middle of March before we get back to anything over 10 people being allowed in the facility. So that's essentially where this decision came from, where it, based on the numbers right now, I don't believe we're looking super positively on that realization of a red zone in about a week. So that's essentially what we've come to the determination of.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jeff and Curtis. I think it's a great call. I know it's a very difficult decision because, you know, Canada's about hockey and it's part of our lives. And but I think it's a great call for under the circumstances. Thank you.
Councillor Kenny, I seen your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the question would be for either Curtis or Terry Dixon. Has the city been approached by any private group about renting the ice as it is now under the with 5 or 10 people allowed at the arena, about renting like a 12-hour block every day?
Yes, sir. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, not that I've been made aware of, not for that amount of time, no, on any given day. Not the ice anyways, no.
Okay, would that be possible if somebody wanted to rent all 12 hours, 7 days a week?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding at this point in time, the answer to that would be no under the current lockdown situation.
Okay. Just one other thing. I read the report and after hearing that, I agree with the report. I also agree with and it came up at our town and gown meeting earlier this week. Somebody mentioned about garbage around the city in the parks. So I'm glad that we're redeploying the employees at the arena, either painting or in other areas at the fire station or whatever. Another area we can look at, and it came up at that meeting, is once the snow goes away, is a lot of the parks, wooded areas in Confederation, there's a lot of garbage, and maybe we can redeploy some of these people on spending some time in cleaning up some of the streets, our city employees. Thank you.
Terry, did you want to speak at all on any of this? You're good? Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. CC 2021-04, I have a mover, Counselor Decker, and a second, Counselor DeRose, that council appoint the following individual to the Active Transportation Advisory Committee, and I'll turn this over to our city clerk, Donna Delvecchio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier today, I did send out an application from a resident who wishes to sit on the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. She is a past member and she has been attending our past meetings for the past 3 months as a guest. So there's one name being put forward if someone would like to make a friendly amendment to the motion.
And can I get an amendment, mover? I got Counselor DeRose. I need a seconder. Counselor Sentence. To approve.
To approve Gloria Lay to be appointed to Active Transportation.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I know she was on the committee before, am I correct? I remember that, yeah. CC 2021-05, mover Counselor Sentence, and second, Counselor Kenny, that Thorold City Council establish a road safety committee, that the city clerk be directed to advertise for 4 at-large members to the committee, that council appoint 1 council representative to the committee. And I'll turn that over to, I read it, so I don't know if I.
Can I add one more recommendation? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Recommendation 4 is that the terms of reference be approved.
Speakers to that motion. Go ahead, Counselor DeRose.
Just to let everybody know, it's a great endeavor what Donna and Sean have been working on to put forth, and you have my support 100%. Anytime we look at safety for the community and the region, it's high on my priority list. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor DeRose. Anyone else want to speak? Do we need to appoint tonight? So we can, you want to wait? Okay, we'll wait until we get the at-large members, and then we'll open the floor for an appointment by council, okay? Go ahead, Counselor Kenny.
Yeah, I was going to nominate Counselor DeRose and think it's a good initiative and nominate him for the committee.
You want to, okay. We got the city clerk says we can accept that nomination. Is there a seconder? Counselor Wilson and Counselor DeRose, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to put their name forward? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Congratulations, Counselor DeRose.
Thank you.
CC 2020, oh, do we have to do the whole? Yeah, I think we'll have a mover, Counselor Sentence, and a second Counselor Sentence now to approve the whole report. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. CC 2021-06, mover Counselor Neal, seconded Counselor Longo. that staff be directed, well, I'll let the city clerk read this one. I'm getting tired.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that staff be directed to submit a grant application under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities FCM funding for municipal asset management plans for consideration of the following project: the creation of an asset management plan for non-core infrastructure assets, and that the attached resolution be adopted as required for the submission of the grant.
Thank you. So we have a mover, Counselor Neal, and a seconded Counselor Long. Does anyone want to speak to that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Notices of motion. As I said in my mayor's report, I'll bring a notice of motion next meeting on lowering the flag for 3 days on March 12th for all those who have passed away from COVID-19. I'll be bringing that notice of motion forward next meeting. Okay, is there any other ones? Seeing none, we'll move to bylaws. We're going to do all the bylaws except one before we go into closed session. So we'll be doing first reading of the bylaws moved by Counselor Wilson and seconded by Counselor Longo, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws: bylaw 15-2021, bylaw 17-2021, and let the same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Final reading of the bylaws moved by Counselor Wilson, seconded by Counselor Longo, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Now we're going to move into closed session. I've got a mover, Counselor Neal, and a second, Counselor Decker, that council resolve into closed meeting session at 7:43 p.m. for the purpose of dealing with matters pertaining to interim director of planning and development services verbal report pursuant to the Municipal Act, section 239 2F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose as it pertains to private property. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now you know you have to log in on the other Zoom, the second Zoom link, please.